Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is January the 30th, 2024, and we are taking a look at the Passover, the true Passover that was given to Moses and that our forefathers kept. So, we left off in Luke. Let's go ahead and take another look, just a quick review of what happened on the first day of the Passover. So there was a plot to kill Jesus. Then he had dinner with Lazarus at high noon. Jesus was anointed. Judas set up a plan to betray Jesus. All of this happened in the evening from high noon until midnight, I guess. And then in the morning, Jesus headed back to Jerusalem. He cursed the fig tree. He had the triumphant entry. The people sang, Hosanna, Hosanna. Jesus cleansed the temple and his authority was challenged. So let's go ahead and take a look at what Luke says about these events. Now, the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Judas to betray Jesus. Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12. And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them. And they were glad in covenant to give him money. And he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude. Passover with the disciples. So, hold on. So we're going to have to go back. Triumphal entry. And when he had thus spoken, okay, I don't think we need this, but I just cannot remember. Let's read it. And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending up to Jerusalem, and it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples, saying, Go ye into the village over against you, in which you are against you, in the which ye are entering, ye shall find a colt tied, whereon yet never a man sat. Loose him and bring him hither. And if any man ask you, Why do you loose him thus? Shall ye say unto him, Because the Lord has need of him. And they were sent. And they that were sent went their way and found, even as he had said unto them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said unto them, Why loose ye the colt? And they said, The Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and they cast their garments upon the colt, and they sat Jesus thereon. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out, because it was commanded, which we saw in the previous video. It's part of the prophecy. And Jesus weeps over Jerusalem. We'll read this too. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, If thou had this, remember, they're being judged here. If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground. I'm just surprised it doesn't say upon the ground, but and shall lay thy even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knowest not the time of thy visitation. Thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. So then he cleansed the temple And he went into the temple and began to cast out them that sold therein, and them that bought, saying unto them, It is written, My house is the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And he taught daily in the temple. But the chief priests and the scribes and the people sought to destroy him, and could not find what they might do, for all the people were very attentive to hear. Let me read that again. And he taught daily in the temple, but the chief priests and the scribes and the chief of the people sought to destroy him, and could not find what they might do, for all the people were very attentive to hear. So they couldn't find an opportunity to kill him. So let's move on. And his authority is challenged. And it came to pass that on one of those days, as he taught the people in the temple and preached the gospel, the chief priests and the scribes came upon him with the elders. It's not one of those days. It's because they changed things around that they put general things in here, like one of those days and about that time and stuff like that. It wasn't one of those days, but they moved things around. So they didn't want to give themselves away, and they didn't want to research it to death to try and figure out exactly what day it was. So they just put one of those days. Anyway. And spake unto him, saying, Tell us, by what authority doest thou these things? Or who is he that gave thee this authority? And he answered and said unto them, I will also ask you one thing, and answer me. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men? And they reasoned with themselves, saying, If we shall say from heaven, he will say, Why then believe ye not? Believe ye him not. But if we say of men, all the people will stone us, for they be persuaded that John was a prophet. And they answered that they could not tell whence it was. And Jesus said unto them, Neither tell I you by what authority I do these things. And then he began to teach in the temple. So after his authority was challenged, we know from Mark and from Matthew that was near the end of the evening. Okay? So that was near the end of the day. So then the next day would have started. But he did not leave. They would have put this in there that he left because they had mixed up the scriptures so much. They thought they had lost the day. They didn't know. They didn't realize what they were doing. I really don't think they did. There wasn't the maliciousness in the way that it was written. It didn't seem to be there to deceive, but to clarify. So they were missing a day somewhere. So they decided to just pluck it in there. Anyway, so he taught in the temple, and that's where you see all of the lessons that were given and all of the, all the parables and so on and so forth. I didn't go through all of those. But he was teaching all day on the 10th. And then he went and slept in the mountains that evening. So then the next morning, he was preparing for the Passover. Let's take another look at the chart of the day. So he had the dinner on the 9th, which was 2 days before. John is the one that gives us the 6 days, the timeline for the 6 days, which is 2 days before the Passover supper, and then 6 days before the Passover, the crucifixion. I think we have time to actually look at, well, we really don't. Well, let's do it anyway. Let's go to Leviticus. I might have put it in here because I just threw so many scriptures in here. I'm just so tired of looking at this. Let's look at this first. So he slept in the mountains on that day, and then in the morning was the preparation for the Passover. He would have been at the temple. I just put miscellaneous there. And then, of course, there was the Last Supper and everything that went along with this. And he did the foot washing and more teaching, of course, and then he was arrested. And then these are the rest of the days of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And let's see. I really want to let me see what scriptures I have in here. No, this is not the way to do it. Hold on. Let's just go through them really quick. Oh, this shows where he slept in the temple. And in the daytime, hold on, let me show you where we are. So he's given all of the lessons from being there all day. Hold on. So the day ended, and then the beginning of the 10th began. And then in Luke 20 and in Luke 21, there's parables and other teachings. And then he slept in the mountains here. So let's go back. And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to him in the temple to hear him. So let's see what's next. We already went over that. Oh, John. I forgot about John. We'll do that. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. And we just saw that on the chart. 6 days before the crucifixion. And then you have the plot to kill Jesus. No, that's the plot to kill Lazarus. The triumphal entry. Let's read this. We're not worried about the order now. We just want to look and see if there's something that's told to us that's unique. That's unique and told in John that wasn't told in the other books. On the next day, much people that were come to the feast, when they heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees and went forth to meet him and cried, Hosanna, blessed is the King of Israel that cometh in the name of the Lord. All of them did this because it was commanded. So everyone did it. Everyone did it. And the Greeks, some Greeks seek Jesus. I thought that it was interesting to keep this in here. I'm not going to read it. But I thought it was interesting that this was in here because if you're going to come on a long journey to seek this man, you're going to want to make sure you're there on the day that you believe most that he will be there. So they knew, or they believed, that Jesus would be there on that day, which was the 10th. He made his triumphal entry on the morning of the 9th. The Greeks would have been there either at the end of the 9th day or at the beginning of the 10th day. Okay? Okay, let's just go on. Jesus washes the disciples' feet. We'll just go over this quickly because I did put it in there as part of the timeline. Now, before the feast of the Passover, we know that this happened after the Last Supper. So when it's speaking of the Passover here, it's speaking of the crucifixion. Now, before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. And supper being ended, see, it's already told you the Last Supper is done. So you don't eat. You do not eat that lamb during the Passover. There is only one lamb, and you don't eat it. And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's, And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. And I should have highlighted this as well. Verse 3. Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he was come from God and went to God, he rises from his supper and laid aside his garment and took a towel and girded himself. It was counted as though he had already been crucified at that supper, because that was our covenant. But anyway, that's the foot washing. Oh, that's all of them. Okay, that's all of our scriptures. So let's go to Leviticus and let's look at the feast days. Let's not do that. Let's make that a separate video. Let's just look at this chart real quick here, and then I think I'm going to end this video here. Yeah, I want to do Leviticus 23 just to go over it quickly so that we can get caught up on some things, to try and get on the same page get into the same line of thinking. And I think I'm going to do that. But I'm going to close out here. I'm going to close out this lesson here. This is your Passover week. This is what our original forefathers kept. If you use the 30-day month, again, it begins on the 25th. I use 31 days. It begins on the 26th, and it goes through the first of the year. You have your 3 days, 3 nights in the heart of the earth, your crucifixion on the 14th, your Passover on the 15th, which is what they call the Passover feast, the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It was a holy day because it is symbolic of, I'm going to get more into this in the very next video. I'm going to do it now. It's a holy day because it is symbolic of the millennium. The first day, you wonder why that's holy. Well, you would not wonder that because you thought this was the first day. But the reason why this is a holy day, because it is symbolic of the Day of Atonement. And so that's why it is a holy day as well. Then you have your 10th day, which is the day that the animal was, we didn't go over any of that. We didn't even go over the Last Supper. We can't move on to Leviticus. I have more work to do. I forgot to do something. There's scriptures that are missing. Let's see if we can find them. I've looked at this enough. Passover with the disciples. This is what I forgot to put in here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I stopped mid-thought, but we've been over that chart. I was closing out, so I was trying to do a final review. We don't need to do that as much as we need to go over this stuff. Okay. Now the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, this is the covenant meal, the marriage supper. And he said, Go into the city to such a man and say unto him, The master saith, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed, and they made ready the Passover. We're going to have to read this. Now when the even was come, he sat down with the 12. The even is now the 10th. It was on the 9th. Now it's the 10th for his last meal. And they did eat and said, Verily I say unto you that one of you shall betray me. And they were exceeding sorrowful, and began every one of them to say unto him, Lord, is it I? And he answered and said, He that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me. The Son of Man goeth as it is written of him. But woe unto that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It had been good for him. It had been good for that man if he had not been born. Then Judas, which betrayed him, answered and said, Master, is it I? He said unto him, Thou hast said. Understand that the only people that at that table that knew that Judas was going to betray Jesus was Jesus and Judas. Nobody heard him. Nobody saw him dip his bread into whatever. No one saw him dip his bread. That was kept between the two of them in private. He would have been sitting close to Jesus because he regarded himself in high esteem. We know that John was also on one side of him. So they were able to keep it private between the two of them. Had he not kept it private, then he could have been accused in some way of, I don't know. He could have been accused, falsely accused, but accused nonetheless. So the only two people that knew, even though they were at the table together, the disciples would have been doing their thing, and this would have been done in private at the table between the two of them. And he would have made sure of it. The institution of the Lord's Supper. This is not all of this was just made up in both Matthew and Mark. The only true rendition of it is in Luke. But we'll read it anyway. Just understand it's not real. You can know this because they've already started this supper up here. They're eating. He's dipping his bread. It had to be real bread because it said he dipped it. It uses the word sop in another area. It had to be leavened bread, by the way. It said he sopped it in somewhere else. You don't do that for crackers, and they're never that clever in their lies. So when you dip a bread, it's a regular bread, and you put some. When you sop with your bread, it's a regular bread. So it was leavened bread that they were eating. Okay, but here it's going to say he gave thanks. He's not going to give thanks in the middle of the meal. That's not the way it's done. You give thanks at the beginning before you eat. So all of this is all made up. And I've already actually spoken with you about the wine. The whole reason for me doing the wine was because I read this and saw that they made all of this up. But now having done wine, I didn't feel the need to go in and do wine specifically for the Lord's Supper, because it seems to me that if you've seen the study on wine, you should know that you should be able to see that there was no wine there. There was no cup there. The cup is a lie as well. But I don't think of course I don't have an explanation because I forgot to include this in the study. But it's not real. And we'll just look at it another time. The cup is a symbol of drinking from the cup is a symbol of wrath. So they're putting a curse in here for you. You drink the cup of the wine of the wrath of God. And it's symbolic of, I think you can have a cup of blessing. But they went through a lot of trouble to make sure that you believe that this was wine. And Jesus didn't drink wine. He might have drunk grape juice. But he wasn't going to drink any wine. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples. Now, see, he's already up here, gave them bread. So you can see that this just starts off lying. It's all of it's a lie here, and all of it's a lie in Mark. Took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, Take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it. No, he didn't. For this is my blood. This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. I shouldn't have done this because I don't remember the details of all of this. And I have studied it, but I didn't refresh myself. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink of it new with you in my Father's kingdom. I can't help you much on this. I'm going to have to do a separate study. I just can't remember it. And I worked on it, but it's just not coming back to me. It's just not. So just understand that I do remember that the cup is the cup of wrath. There was no cup and there was no wine. And there was something about this New Testament that was in question. You cannot sacrifice for none of this. Just okay. You know what? Let's just move on to the next one. Let's look at Mark. We're gonna retell the story anyway. We have to go through it. It's Mark 14. We have to do a different study where we look at it in detail. The Last Supper. Passover with the disciples. And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, Where wilt thou that we go to prepare, that thou mayest eat the Passover? First day of unleavened bread was the 9th. They were preparing for the 10th. This word killed here does not mean kill. This word kill means rush. We know that on the 10th day of the month, to sacrifice, to slay, to kill, the primary verb properly to rush. This is an accurate definition, by the way, in many ways, because to rush is kind of like, you ever seen people on television where they're chasing that chicken and they're trying to get that chicken so they can kill it. And it's kind of funny because those chickens be running. That's what rushing is. It's when you don't just go out and get an animal amongst a bunch of other animals and kill it, because all of the other animals are going to see what's happening and it's going to scare them. And then if they see you coming too many times with that shotgun in your hand, somebody's going to attack. Here he comes again with the shotgun. You're not going to be able to get them. So rushing is when you grab the animal and you set it aside for slaughter at a later time. So that's why they put the definition here to kill. But that's not what it means. It means to rush. So when it says, and the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, it's saying on the first day of unleavened bread, when they set the lamb aside for slaughter. His disciples said unto him, Where wilt thou that we go to prepare, that thou mayest eat the Passover? And he sendeth forth 2 of his disciples, and saith unto them, Go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him, and wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good men of the house, that the master saith, Where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show thee a large upper room furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. And his disciples went forth and came into the city, and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. And in the evening he cometh with the 12 on the 10th day, in order to eat the Passover. That's not right. That's not right. Hold on. The first day of unleavened bread. This is the beginning. The beginning of unleavened bread. It's not the first day. It's at the beginning of unleavened bread. That's why I have that highlighted. Because it's not the 9th, it's the 10th. On the 10th, they ate the... Okay, I'm getting a little... Okay, on the 10th is when all of this happened. When they killed the Passover. They rushed the Passover on the 10th. So this would have been on the 10th, at the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Sorry, I didn't prepare for this. I'm just doing it off of memory. But it's good I got that highlighted. I would have messed up there. Anyway, And in the evening he cometh with the 12. And as they sat and did eat, Jesus said, Verily I say unto you, one of you, we've already read that. We don't need that again. Institution of the Lord's Supper. This, again, all of this is made up. And again, he's giving thanks in the middle of the meal after they've already eaten. I didn't read it, but you see it here. This time he says, And he answered and said unto them, It is one of the 12 that dippeth with me in the dish. So they're already eating. He's already broke bread. They're halfway into their meal, and suddenly he stands up and blesses the bread and blesses the drink. No, that's not the way it works. This is just made up. And as they did eat, Jesus took bread and blessed and brake it and gave to them and said, Take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup, which when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said unto them, This is the blood. Okay, I'm not going to read this. We'll take a brief look at Luke. Probably not the Lord's Supper. And I'm sorry, but that's the only one that's correct. This is the only one that's correct, but we're out of time, and we need to take a look at the Passover with the disciples in case. Oh, I have nothing highlighted there, but that's probably because I didn't read it. So let's read through it real quick, and then we'll close out. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. Again, it's the same word. It means rushed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare us the Passover, that we may eat. And they said unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare? And he said unto them, Behold, when ye are entered... Hold on 1 minute. Okay, we have to start over, because I forgot where I was. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare the Passover, that we may eat. And they said unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare? And he said unto them, Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. And ye shall say unto the good men of the house, The master saith unto thee, Where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he shall show you a large upper room furnished. There make ready. I read all of it. And they went and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. Okay, it was the same, nothing new in there. This, however, does require a little bit of, because this actually is the correct rendition of what happened, aside from all of the added stuff. We're going to stop here. We're not going to go into this right now. My memory of it has faded. I need to review. Anyway, but we'll just stop there, and then we'll just pick up in the next video. I'm not sure where, though. Maybe Leviticus, because it'd be nice to get that out of the way and get us all on the same picture there. But this is your Passover week. This is your Passover week. This is what happened all that time ago. All right, I will stop there, and I will talk with you in the next video.